Hey, how's it going, everyone? Thank you for joining me on another episode of the Music Reviewer Podcast. My name's Josh, and today we have another episode of Best and Worst Track of the week being of September 26th. If you're new to Best and Worst Track of the Week or the Music Reviewer in general, welcome. This is a podcast where I just review music and I talk about music. But yeah, Best and Worst Track of the Week is just me covering all new entries into this week's Billboard Hot 100, giving one each a letter grade, and then picking one that's the worst, picking one that's the best. All in all, it's just my opinion. Don't take it all too seriously. And yeah, let's get into the gist of this episode. Overall, on this week's Billboard Hot 100, we had some pretty stagnant movement at the top, or lack of movement. WAP continued to be at number one, unsurprisingly. I've seeing this track, unless something out of the blue comes in the next couple weeks, it's probably going to stay that way. BTS Dynamite continues to hold strong at number two. I feel like that's almost as surprising as anything almost on this entire week, because of the reception of the American audience to this all English track by BTS. So kudos to them. And then everything else in the top seven stayed pretty stagnant, which I thought was pretty weird. Nothing moved or nothing went down. Some things that I found interesting as well. Lemonade by Internet Money featuring Don Toliver, Nav, and Gunna made a pretty huge jump from 38 to 22. Kind of interested to see if this song kind of ends up becoming a bigger hit. AJR, the one weird occurrence for the past 2 months almost on the Billboard Hot 100, has shut up 10 spots this week, up to 41. At this point, I don't care the merit of the song, whether I thought it sucked or not. I'm genuinely curious how far we can see it go. At this point, I'm like, fuck it. If it gets to the top 10, I'm not going to be surprised. And then some other cool things that are interesting phenomenon on here. Heather by Conan Gray, one of our worst tracks of the week, went down to 51 this week. So, think Higher Power for that. I was afraid this one was gaining more traction. Although, with my luck, it'll probably shoot up next week. But another cool occurrence is Pretty Heart by Park McCollum, steadily climbing up to 73 this week. It's still quite low, but I feel like the momentum is at least constant for this track. And then another weird thing I noticed was that a lot of Pop Smoke's tracks re-entered this week. I don't know what's up with that, if there's like a deluxe version that came out, or something happened, but a lot of them came back in. And then also our best track of the week from last week, The Voice by Lil Durk, dropped out, which that kind of was like I'm not too bothered by it. But I guess I was hoping that The Voice would have had some sort of prominent lifespan on here. But let's go ahead and get into the meat and potatoes. Overall, this week could have been an album bomb, but it wasn't. It was a lot of the new tracks are from YoungBoy Never Broke Again's Just a Fair Warning new album. Not everything made it on here, which I'm kind of surprised, because I think their streaming numbers for this was pretty big. Or were pretty big. But anyways, the first track that we had coming in this week was A Dirty Stick by YoungBoy Never Broke In. This track overall was pretty piano-centric on the instrumental. A lot of the tracks on this album seem to be that way. YoungBoy kind of just raps with this aggressive and angry delivery and presence on the verses. The hook chorus, in my opinion, is like the weakest part of the track. Overall, the instrumental isn't bad. I like the synthetic plucked string sounds and the overall composition that's melodic and colorful, and a lot of points in the track. There's also parts on the track where NBA YoungBoy Never Broke In, whatever you call him, he sounds manic, somewhat bipolar. I feel like that can be a good and bad thing depending on how receptive you are to like how crazy it sounds at time. Overall, I thought the song was a B. And then You Got It by Vedo was the next track that came in. I had to look up who Vedo is, and this Vedo is one of the interesting artists that came in this week because he is a former voice contestant from like back in 2013. I don't know why two of them came in this week. Was there like a greatest hits voice album that came out that I missed somehow? But yeah, this track was kind of caught me off guard, mainly because of the throwback flavor to this. It sounds like Usher, like 2000s R&B Usher, even especially on the vocals. Like they're very similar to like the tone and delivery and even mannerisms of Usher. So the instrumental of the track I thought was okay. It serves the track well. There's a light soft keyboard on here. The song overall is like quite derivative of like the 2000s R&B aesthetic. So if you get the point already, the track sounds kind of like a throwback. I wish I heard some more distinct elements in the track, but overall it's not bad. I gave it a B. Next track was off NBA or YoungBoy Never Broke Again's album, Right Foot Creep. I thought this was probably one of the weaker tracks I heard. There's a thumpy, synthy bass instrumental that opens up the track, and honestly, that's one of the better parts of the whole entire track. The track has a decent groove. Overall, NBA YoungBoy throws in some interesting ideas at times, but the delivery at times is inconsistent. The more wordy parts sound maybe misaligned with the instrumental at time, and kind of similar to that Blueface offbeat phenomenon when they kind of just get into like this undiscernible rhythmic weird occurrence where it doesn't line up. Overall, the track has like a moodiness to it, but maybe the abrasiveness of NBA isn't quite a sell, so I gave this track a C. The next track is called Crossroads off the YoungBoy Never Broke Again album, which I feel I should mention the title. The name of the album is Top. And yeah, this track, just another one I didn't quite dig too much. There's a more tolerable instrumental on here from some of the other things I was hearing. Something you expect to like maybe hear Rod Wave on. It's moody and somber, and the instrumental is kind of structured with this clean guitar. Very, I guess, practical. Of I guess his aesthetic, and then the singing here is still pretty bad. So like one thing I noticed is that YoungBoy Never Broke Again is a terrible singer. The delivery and presence by him on this track is good at times in terms of like his rapping, but it changes rather quickly to other ideas as soon as you'd like to hear like the idea he's already on develop. So yeah, very bipolar here. And overall, like, the whole entire track just sounds like a bad interpretation of, like, Little Skies and Landed Cube, like that collab album they did at times. Just kind of, like, copying and pasting some of the parts of that album. So, yeah, I gave Crossroads a C. The next track we have here is not YoungBoy Never Broke Again. It's Gone Too Soon by Andrew Jannakos, which is the other former voice contestant. He was the much more interesting one, in my opinion, because it seems like he's trying to be a country artist. Overall, the song immediately greets you with like this soundscape that's not too bad. It immediately gets to the point with like some lingering guitar textures that sound, I guess, pretty generic and derivative of a lot of country at this point in time. He has this weird effect of distortion on his voice too. I wasn't too big of a fan of that. And honestly, by the time you hit the chorus on this track, it kind of just makes me realize maybe it was written for like Luke Bryan, an artist like Luke Bryan that maybe didn't want this song 3 years ago. It's that kind of thing. I don't mind the subtle guitar melodies in the track. I think overall, like, the instrumental is probably the best part of this. His voice is decent. He definitely pulls it off. I'd say it doesn't sound like it's as strong as it needs to be to pull off like country ballads, but that's kind of okay nowadays when you got someone like Kane Brown and Sam Hunt dominating everything. I also have a feeling this track is going to be huge. I don't know what it is, but it just sounds like a hit, and I wouldn't be surprised if it gains in the next few weeks quite a bit. Right now it's at 65, but I give this track a B. The next track was by YoungBoy, Never Broke Again. Drug Addiction came in at 44. This is just another similar sounding minor key instrumental that he constantly is on. His voice just sounds very processed on here, especially on the singing parts. I just can't handle it at times. Again though, the rapping isn't terrible. Like when it gets down to the songwriting, though the hooks and choruses just aren't very memorable. Like if I'd say one thing about his style, especially on these tracks that I've been listening to, yeah, the hooks just kind of don't really stick. And then the track tries to be overly somber, but it's not quite of a sell. I don't really buy it. And then there's like these weird embellishments thrown in with like these subtle hovering vocal samples that kind of make the song a little bit better for what it is. I gave this track a B minus. The next track is pretty interesting too. I'm happy this was thrown in because honestly, I was getting very tired of the YoungBoy Never Broke Again by this point. This came in at 36. It's Okay Not to Be Okay by Marshmellow and Demi Lovato. This track was okay, like in the title. But anyways, it sounds like it was meant to be written for Halsey. I don't know if Demi was the second choice on here, but that's just immediately what I got from it. There's a dancey beat drop that I actually prefer compared to like something else that I was expecting to be more boring. And then I'm not a huge fan of the over-dominant snap tracks that are thrown in constantly that just dominate the mix. I like the anticipation of like the pre-chorus moments that come right before the chorus drop parts. That part of the song is actually quite nice. But I feel like the main issue here is Demi is underselling her vocal chops on this track. It honestly sounds like Selena Gomez pulled this singing off on the recording. So I just really would have preferred, I guess, the Demi Lovato belting, even though I'm not even that big of a fan of it. I feel like that would have served the song a little bit better. But overall, there's some pretty clean and slick production on here by Marshmellow. It's okay. It's not bad. I give it a B. And then we also have another track by YoungBoy Never Broke Again. Just a fair warning, everything from here on out is YoungBoy Never Broke Again. This, I think, was the highest charting of the week. It was My Window featuring Lil Wayne. This honestly wasn't a bad track. I actually thought this was one of the better ones. It at least has like a more distinct sounding instrumental, but by this point I'm just wanting something that sounds at least somewhat unique. There's a light keyboard progression that serves the track quite well. There's a more upbeat flavor with some groove to it. It's not a bad thing either to have some groove on this set of tracks. I don't necessarily mind the random coming in and going of this repetitive guitar note that's thrown in the track. It at least makes the instrumental sound, again, more interesting. And Lil Wayne sounds pretty good on this. There's a bit of moodiness and ambience to this track, and I feel like, I guess, if you were going to have a feature for this artist, Lil Wayne isn't a bad choice. I gave this track a B. So now we are to that point of the show where we go into worst track of the week and best track of the week. I will start with worst track of the week so we can end on a good note. Worst track of the week, honestly, it was probably, it could have gone any other way with some of the other tracks on here by YoungBoy Never Broke Again. This one was The Last Backyard, coming in at 81. Immediately when I heard this track, I had a double take to make sure I wasn't listening to Dirty Stick again because of how similar the damn instrumental sounded. Like, it's piano-centric here again in like the same kind of aesthetic. It's just very odd. There's some pretty bad brass synth production things going on here on the instrumentation. There's some terrible crooning bits, probably the worst vocals I've heard on, I guess, these set of tracks that came in. The vocal tone on his voice is just borderline insufferable. The track has like this overly tough and mean aesthetic here at times. It's definitely a gang-banging anthem, if you will. The rapping isn't the worst thing I've heard either. Like, NBA's flows and ideas at times aren't bad, but the song is just ruined by the singing. The singing is almost unforgivable on here. So I gave it worst track of the week. And then we go to the best track of the week, which I guess by default, just because of how much shit came in from this album, was going to be an NBA YoungBoy or YoungBoy Never Broke Again track. This came in at 72. It's called Dead Trolls. Honestly, it could have went any other way. For some reason, this one just kind of stuck out to me. It could have gone to like any other track on here, honestly, even the Marshmellow song or the Lil Wayne track. But this one, the reason why I like it is, even though it's another piano instrumental in a minor key, the character in his rapping on this track isn't terrible. It's actually pretty good. He can pull off the gangster rap aesthetic here on this track pretty well. The flow is good. There's some nice rhythmic ideas that are thrown in that aren't bad either. The abrasiveness here I actually buy it. It's a good sell. I like the dry percussive sounding embellishments thrown in the instrumental. It makes the track much more interesting. There's some elements of drill beat, I think, on here too, which is a good thing. The album needs something like that. Overall, maybe the kick in here is a little bit muddy, probably intentionally. At times it's distracting. It's probably the worst thing I can say about this track. Overall, the ability for YoungBoy Never Broke Again to switch between different deliveries and characters in the track is actually pretty cool. I'd say it's kind of like Eminem-like, how Eminem can like switch between different characters, and almost like how Kendrick does it. He doesn't do it on anywhere near that level, but he at least does it, and I think it's pretty cool at times. So that got best track of the week. But yeah, if you stuck around to the end of this episode, thanks for listening to Best and Worst Track of the Week. Stick around listening to the Music Reviewer podcast. I'll be reviewing some albums soon, and then also, of course, this weekly show. If you ever have any constructive criticism, good or bad, go ahead and lay it on me if you're in the comments on YouTube. I appreciate anything. But yeah, take care of yourselves. Have a good week.